Representative Epps.
I'm going to be real careful to not speak to motives, although I didn't. I don't know what the motive would be for wanting to feed one set of children while exploiting others. I don't know what the motive would be, and it's embedded in this amendment, to do anything other than to allocate our resources in a way that is just. As I said, we can't name products, but we're talking about a relatively small limitation. This amendment doesn't require us to add special labeling as the EU has done. It requires us to consider that our calls for decorum, it's just a wild thing to care about when we're willingly looking the other way. And this amendment gives us the opportunity to stop doing that. It is 2 amendments because there's 2 authorizing statutes that are relevant. But when the governor called for this extraordinary session that leads to this amendment, directing legislators to put people over politics, which relates to this amendment, when he called on Coloradans to look towards those in immediate need of immediate relief and aid, to aid our most vulnerable, the parameters of the governor's call were appropriately narrowly tailored, as is this amendment, to direct us as a General Assembly to focus on 5 subjects of immediate concern. And all 5 of the mandates, just like this amendment, are directed at supporting those in greatest need. There's a recognition in the governor's call that we owe a special duty of care to children. Healthy kids both in and out of school. Some of you will have known what it's like to need food stamps, SNAP, to assist your families. Others can imagine it. But this amendment assures that those of us who do rely and have relied do not have to be complicit at every turn. In looking the other way, while, as this amendment points to the occupied territories, while ethnic cleansing is underway. This amendment is connected to the fact that Colorado children in accessing foods during next summer, when the program will start, in a state where so many of us are prospering, over 300,000 of our children remain food insecure. This is a policy choice. This amendment speaks to our, I started to say our collective desire, and I've got to be real clear, I couldn't get the chair's clarification on what exactly he means by motive. I'm not speaking to motive, I'm speaking to the amendment. But most of us in this room, we want kids to eat. We probably all want kids to eat. For some of us, that doesn't stop at Colorado borders. And it's a testament to our values that while we protect Colorado kids from food insecurity and hunger, while we do the work that we know, just like investing in early childhood that gives our little ones a better chance to be rested and participate in the school year, we can't do that while underwriting the active annihilation, starvation of other folks' children. This amendment, like its sibling, pair, one to follow, recognizes that Colorado, we're one of only a few states to offer free, somebody pays, but school breakfast and lunch to all students. We understand, at least our policy choices have reflected a commitment to trying to understand that we don't discern between class and race and ethnicity if deciding if a child should eat. And we don't want or need our resources being used this way. It's not about the motive, it's about the amendment, Mr. Chair, but the idea that it was so hard to be allowed to even speak about this. I'm going to ask for a yes vote, but I fully expect it to fail 64-1, and that's okay. Because when we revisit this amendment, when we add to our list of future resolutions that will build on this amendment, there will be a record that someone tried, just like in 78 and 80 and 82 and 84, our predecessors ran brave legislation that lost, but that was clearly on the right side of history. This amendment speaks to the health of our children and others. Some people know, some don't, but I have an invisible disability that's not going to be invisible for much longer. And this amendment, this amendment speaks to, in a state where we have so much, where we are not cash poor, where we have the resources to feed our children. The amendment isn't even directing that we do anything affirmative to help. Not even asking that we help, but just that we decide that our favorite hummus and dates are going to be purchased from a different company than one that is exploiting starving children, where people are, as the amendment alludes to, losing children at a rate that is astronomical. And as this amendment reminds us, we know that some populations have less access. What I want you to understand when I talk about our predecessors, because when I think about this amendment, what the Honorable Representative Chisholm said in terms of expecting pushback. All of us, I think I can speak to motive if it's positive, but all of us are experts in something or some things. And whatever you're an expert in, you don't have the privilege to hold that back from this body, from your constituents. If you're a county commissioner and know about how to handle local government, you owe it to us to share that. Right? If you're a teacher, you owe us that expertise. And if your mother has been dragging you to workers, well, a whole lot of protests with strikes, but that definitely is beyond the amendment. But if your mother was dragging you to Palestinian liberation marches alongside your dozens in Northern Virginia we didn't have many Palestinian friends, but plenty of Jewish ones and plenty of Christians and plenty of good heathens like me, dragging us to DC to support, you don't get to be silent on it. And this amendment reminds that if all we can do in Colorado is have a failed amendment on the record, like the failed amendments when our predecessors didn't quite get it right the first time in 78. If all we can do is this amendment that just says, fully consistent with federal guidelines, we already in Colorado limit how poor folks can spend their money. Our discomfort is nothing compared to the discomfort of our hungry kids. I feel like an old lady saying kiddos, but this amendment pulls from, this is not my language. It's the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. This amendment pulls from that assertion that children are entitled, as the bill sponsor said, meaning Colorado children, but pulls from the idea that children are entitled to special protections. The amendment recognizes the importance of our international cooperation because our liberation is independent. Those are separate words, dependent on each other. This amendment was crafted the week that November 12th of this year, the Director General of the United Nations announced that the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations considers, in respect to this amendment, all the civilian population in Gaza to be food insecure.